The Hoopheads podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
When I evaluated the job, it had no gaps. There were no reasons that you couldn't succeed. I thought that everything was in place to be good. We're going to play fast. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. We're going to pick up 94 feet defensively. So there's a certain skill set that you need.
Bart Lundy will be entering his first season as the men's basketball head coach at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee this fall. Lundy comes to UWM after a very successful 9-year run at Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina, posting a 30-4 record during the recently completed 2021-22 campaign. He took his program to the NCAA Tournament for the 7th year in a row this past season, advancing all the way to the Southeast Regional Championship game. Lundy is the winningest coach in Queen's basketball history, posting a record of 333 and 103, and a career coaching record of 429 and 190 in his 20 seasons as a head coach in NCAA Division I and Division II. Lundy has also done an impressive job developing players, with 24 former Queens players having played professionally over the past 9 seasons, highlighted by 4 NBA G League players, as well as Todd Withers, who signed a contract with the Detroit Pistons in the NBA following the NBA Summer League slate in 2019. In addition to success on the court, he has graduated every player to exhaust their eligibility since 2016 and seen his program post a team GPA over 3.0 each of the past 4 years. Hey Hoopheads, transform your training this May with our partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball. Their Dr. Dish shooting machines are undoubtedly the most advanced and user-friendly machines on the market. Get $1,000 off any commercial machine in the month of May. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Visit drdishbasketball.com for details. That's a great deal, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
Hi, this is speaker, author, and coach David Cooks, and you're listening to the Hoopheads podcast.
Prepare like the pros with the all-new Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Fast Draw has been the #1 play diagramming software for coaches for years. You'll quickly see why Fast Model Sports has the most compelling and intuitive basketball software out there. For a limited time, Fast Model is offering Hoopheads listeners 15% off Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Just use the code HHP15 at checkout to grab your discount, and you'll be on your way to more efficient game prep and improved communication with your team. Fast Model also has new coaching content every week on its blog, plus play and drill diagrams on its play bank. Check out the links in the show notes for more. Fast Model Sports is the best in basketball. If you're looking to improve your coaching, please consider joining the Hoopheads Mentorship Program. We believe that having a mentor is the best way to maximize your potential and become a transformational coach. By matching you up with one of our experienced mentors, you'll develop a one-on-one relationship that will help your coaching, your team, your program, and your mindset. The Hoopheads Mentorship Program delivers mentoring services to basketball coaches at all levels through our team of experienced head coaches. Find out more at hoopheadspod.com or shoot me an email directly, mike@hoopheadspod.com. Follow us on social media at HoopheadsPod on Twitter and Instagram, and be sure to check out the Hoopheads Podcast Network for more great basketball content. Coaches, do you have a point guard or leader you're going to be counting on next season to run the show for you? Don't leave next season to chance. Thousands of coaches send their players to a point guard college camp each summer to learn to think the game, lead a team, and run the show. Your players will be smarter, better leaders, and better equipped to foster a championship culture next season in practice and in your locker room. I've seen firsthand how PGC camps have had a huge impact on players and coaches that I know, both on and off the court. You can go to pgcbasketball.com to find a 5-day, 4-night camp near you. That's pgcbasketball.com. Have your notebook handy as you listen to this episode with Bart Lundy, head men's basketball coach at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Hello, and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Lindsay here without my co-host Jason Sokol this morning, but I am pleased to be joined by the new head coach at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, back for his second tour on the Hoopheads pod, Bart Lundy. Bart, welcome back.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
First of all, yes, absolutely. Congratulations on the new job. Let's start by just talking about how this opportunity came across your desk. What's the thought process when the job comes open? Just tell us a little bit about how you got the process started.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I wasn't really looking for a job. And I literally, funny story, I was looking at my phone and, we all have the notifications that pop up on our phone. I don't know what it was, Hoop Dirt or whatever. It popped up that the former coach had been let go. And as I'm looking at that notification, my phone rings. It's a search firm. I was quickly on the phone with the AD and still wasn't sure, how I felt about leaving Queens and, coming to Milwaukee. And but she really sold me on the vision. And, I'd been in Milwaukee before at Marquette. And, they're opening a new practice facility. We finished our season and flew up, and one thing led to another. So it was kind of a fast time, fast and furious.
How much of that previous experience in Milwaukee for both you and your family played a part in how quickly you were able to think about, yeah, maybe this is something that's a great opportunity? If it had been another city in the Midwest, maybe that you hadn't had as much familiarity with, how much of it was that familiarity with Milwaukee, having been here before?
It was a large part. In my, I'm remarried, and my wife I met when I was at Marquette, and she literally lived 3 blocks from UWM. So we knew the schools, we knew the area. So there have been other opportunities that we weren't as familiar with, and the timing of this and the location both played a huge part.
When you are going through the process and you get that initial call from the AD, take us through the interview process. How many interviews do you have? What's the first conversation like? And just how you went about preparing yourself for that interview process.
Yeah, you're going to be astounded at this. So the very first conversation, which I expected to be, sort of an interview with the athletic director, Amanda Braun, was more just, she already knew. She had already listened to podcasts. She had already watched games. She already knew all about me. So it was far different than anything I had experienced before, which, made me more interested in the job, to be honest. And then we were still playing. So we lose on I don't remember what day it was, a Tuesday night in the regional finals on a buzzer beater in Augusta, Georgia. I get back at, say, 2:00 in the morning. Well, they had bought a flight that night. I flew up. I got on a plane at 6 a.m. So I was exhausted. So no prep, no nothing. They put me downtown Milwaukee. They didn't want to bring anybody on campus. So we did the interview in a really nice hotel called the Pfister. The only time I went to campus was to meet the chancellor. So it was a fast day. Then, they let me go, after dinner time, and I flew out the next morning. But literally on about 2 hours of sleep and no prep. So I'd like to tell you that I did all my research, and I always say that 2 things could have derailed this pretty quickly. One, if they don't make that shot and beat us. And 2, I got off the plane and it was like 65 degrees, and it was the first day the weather had broken. But coming from Charlotte, if I'd gotten off and it'd been snowing, I probably would have got back on the plane.
How difficult was it to lose that game to Augusta and then sort of shift your mentality away from what you had put into obviously that season and sort of think about, okay, how does this next opportunity fit into my life, my career plans, kind of where I'm at? How difficult was that to sort of change gears within the course of 3 hours of sleep or whatever you got that night?
Well, probably having the 3 hours of sleep helped me because I was just, at that point I was just moving,
Right.
We got to get on this plane. I was really upset after the game. Players were really upset. So I think I just didn't process it.
Yeah.
And that probably helped. Because it didn't give me a choice of how to react. Just one foot in front of the other, and it was fast.
What was the conversation like in terms of what they told you they were looking for? What were some of the things that either they felt that you could bring to the table or things that they felt needed to be changed in order to get the program where the administration wants it to go?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things they were looking for. I think number one was an established head coach, and kind of unique to this time and place in college basketball. They really wanted someone who wasn't necessarily Division I at the time. And I think that goes back, and by no means am I comparing myself to these guys, but Bo Ryan had come here from Division III. Bruce Pearl had come from Division II, and they had success with those guys. It's been a few years, but the people remember that success. And so again, for me coming from Division II, that was flattering, and for them to be able to recognize that, there's pretty good basketball outside of Division I.
So you get back and you talk that over, I assume, with your wife. Who else are you talking over this decision with besides your wife when you start considering whether or not you're really going to go ahead and move forward?
Yeah, mostly my wife, my family. These are real life decisions. I have a blended family, and I've not taken some other opportunities because I have sons who are in the area who live with my ex-wife, during school days and, back and forth and all that. So the things in the past I've not gone after because I wasn't going to leave the area. Well, they're old enough. My last son, who's in high school, he's going to be a senior, and the discussion was, Dad, you've sacrificed, you've stayed. In a year, I'm not going to live with you or Mom. You kind of gave me his blessing. And then my wife, and then Queens. Queens is a partner. They did everything they could do to keep me there, which was again flattering. But I discussed it with them and was open and honest about the opportunity and how we were looking at it.
When you make the decision and you're going to go ahead and take the job, what's the conversation like with your staff? Obviously, Coach Leonard takes over for you. I don't know how much influence you had in making that happen or not happen during the course of the discussions. And obviously your kids that played for you and that you put a lot of time and effort and invested a ton in them. You had a great season. You've had a great run during your entire time at Queens. So what's that discussion like both with your staff and with your players at Queens once you've made the decision to go?
Yeah, the situation at Queens was pretty unique in two ways. One, Grant had been with me the entire 9 years. He had been my assistant the entire time. And so that helped to facilitate him, getting the job. And it wasn't immediate. But I kind of went to Queens, the AD and the president, and said, look, we built this. He deserves a shot. Queens is going to Division I. They knew that was coming around the bend. So, that made it a little more complicated for Grant. But at the end of the day, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to move forward. And I had enough respect from them to be able to tell them, hey, you either need to hire Grant or not hire Grant and let him come to Milwaukee. And Grant was in a pretty good spot because he's from Milwaukee. And so he was either going to be a head coach or go home. So he was going to be fine either way. And then we had a couple other staff members who one came with me here and one stayed with Grant. So everyone was taken care of, which was nice. And then the players, we didn't have a senior on the roster. This is the second unique part. So not a senior on the roster, really good team. Queens was going into the transition. They were really afraid that it would fall apart. And so all that played into, one, getting Grant the job, and two, my conversations with the team, which were in the presence of the AD and president, which was fine. I didn't mind that, but they wanted, when I told them that I was leaving, that they could be there to say, hey, we're gonna keep this rolling. We're gonna find a good coach. They hadn't offered Grant the job at that point. So it was a fairly unique dynamic that was going on. And then they left and I had time with the players. And that honestly is the hardest part. I didn't really think that I would probably leave Queens. So, they had been, confident that they were in a really stable situation. So that was difficult.
Yeah, I think those conversations, when you spend, again, so much time together, players and coaches, and again, now you're talking about guys that you've had for 2 or 3 seasons that you've built that relationship with, and to walk away, even though deep down, I'm sure the players, they get it, they understand the opportunity that was put in front of you, but at the same time, that relationship it's an important one. Let's face it, for a college basketball player, that relationship with their coach and with their staff is probably the most important one that they have in their college experience. So you can certainly understand the player's mindset, and obviously yours, how difficult that is to have those conversations and say goodbye and move on. I'm sure that you're going to continue to stay in touch with those guys. Obviously, you're going to root for Grant and for Queens to have a tremendous amount of success as they go forward. So now you get on the ground in Milwaukee, and what's your first step? Once you accept the job, you obviously have to start looking at, well, where is the program right now? So who are the conversations who are you talking to? Obviously the AD. Who else are you going to and saying, hey, where are we right now? So you can start to formulate a plan of what you need to do going forward.
Yeah. There was so many people, probably too many people, who wanted to, that not only did I seek advice, but wanted to give me advice on where it should go.
I believe that.
So I had I think Richie McKay at the Final Four said, one of the best pieces of advice is when you get a new job to get a second phone, and to have one phone that everybody's calling, and then one that you can just do the bits of business that have to be done,
right?
Because it's really hard to keep everything organized. And what I saw was, okay, I need to figure out where this roster is. There were already 4 kids in the portal, 5 kids in the portal. They obviously weren't a great team last year. What was the reason for that? Was it chemistry? Was it talent? Where is this roster? What am I going to do with staff? I had 3 targets. Obviously, Grant was one of them, and I missed on all 3 of my initial targets for assistants. So really had to kind of keep rolling with that. So staff and players, and then Milwaukee put me on a media blitz. It was fantastic. We got a lot of publicity out of it. But my first, I think, 9 days, it was just one thing after another. And so it was a lot. And it probably took me longer than I anticipated to figure out, okay, where is everything with this roster, with this program, with staff. If you had asked me when I took the job how long it would take, it took me longer, and it's hard, mostly because we're in a different age in college basketball with the portal, with the, NIL, that all that you're calling a kid and he's got, a comparable school, but the school's offering him a $15,000 NIL. Well, I mean, I'm not doing that, I just landed. I don't know.
I'm trying to get my first paycheck. Figuring that out, right?
Yeah.
Time to hire that NIL expert, right? It won't be long before everybody's got one of those on staff for sure.
Yeah, I know. And that's sad. Yeah, it is what it is. So it was a difficult process trying to figure out where we were and where we needed to go. And I think, having a lot of years as a head coach, I've got more patience than probably a lot of people. So I did let it evolve. Probably missed on some recruits because of that, but wanted to go slower rather than be a bull in a china shop.
All right, let's go to the staff part of it. So the first 3 guys that you target, you can't get them to join you for whatever those reasons are. Now you got to go and figure out, okay, where do I find the kind of staff that I want to put together? So what was your process there? Are you calling your contacts? Are you reaching out to people you've worked with in the past? Are you reaching out with people with connections to the Midwest city of Milwaukee? Just what was your process?
Yeah, all of that. I wanted some guys that I knew or that people I knew were close with. I thought it was important not being from the Midwest, not being from Wisconsin, not being from Milwaukee, that I talked to as many people, candidates that had those connections as possible. So I think at the Final Four, I had 30 interviews at the Final Four, and most of those were people who were somehow connected to the state. It was gradual. I ended up hiring a junior college head coach who I thought had taken 2 different programs. He's younger, Jake Williams, but had taken 2. One's an okay program resource-wise. The other has no business winning, and he won at a high level at both. Just watched him hustle over the years, and thought we needed, junior college connections. And then hired a former player from UWM, Jose Winston, who was tied in with high school and grassroots in Milwaukee and the state. As a guy everybody respected, and he's great not only on that recruiting side, but also very good coach and awesome with our community relations and alumni relations. Kind of brought everybody together, and then hired a guy named Mark Shue, who has been around, kind of known as a recruiter, but really wants to be more known as a coach. And I felt like he is a grinder and a guy that I can kind of develop as a coach, give him more responsibility on the floor than he's had. So I think that's important. I think guys hire these assistants and they say, "Oh, run around and get players." But at my point in my career, significance to me is helping our players get better and reach their goals, but also the staff. I want to see them develop and fill in the gaps and, be head coaches at some point. I think Coach Shue is one of those. And then retain the director of operations, who's a brilliant guy. Really knew the ins and outs of the system there, which has been invaluable. And then I've got a guy who's with me at Queens, who's going to be the director of player development, and then retain 2 of the graduate assistants. So, some pieces that were already in place.
Your first impression is everything when applying for a new coaching job. A professional coaching portfolio is the tool that highlights your coaching achievements and philosophies, and most of all, helps separate you and your abilities from the other applicants. The Coaching Portfolio Guide is an instructional membership-based website that helps you develop a personalized portfolio. Each section of the Portfolio Guide provides detailed instructions on how to organize your portfolio in a professional manner. The guide also provides sample documents for each section of your portfolio that you can copy, modify, and add to your personal portfolio. As a Hoopheads Pod listener, you can get your coaching portfolio guide for just $25. Visit coachingportfolioguide.com/hoopheads to learn more. So you get everybody in place and you start looking around and saying, okay, now we got to figure out the roster. We got to go ahead. We got to start hitting the recruiting trail. What does that look like getting the job at this point compared to what it might look like if you were back at Queens in terms of recruiting? How is that different? And then clearly you're in another different geographic area where you got to start to rebuild those relationships with high school coaches and grassroots coaches like you talked about, which your staff can help you with that. But just talk a little bit about, hey, how do we fill this roster out?
Yeah, I think, you start with what do you have? Where's the roster now? And we had 3 weeks with these guys. I sat down and had some, pretty hard talks with some of them about, how I saw them fitting in. That the system they ran here was much different. And not that I just ran them off, but, just to be honest with guys, and that's what players want. So we opened up a few more spots, and we really went about. For me, I wanted guys that I was familiar with first, and guys that fit what we do, which is, we're going to play fast, we're going to shoot a lot of threes, we're going to pick up 94 feet defensively. So, there's a certain skill set that you need, and really it's kind of been amazing to see it develop, because I've gotten a lot of kids. We may end up with 4 North Carolina kids in Milwaukee. So I'm sure that will change. That may change over time, but I guess you go with what you know, right?
Hey, you're bringing them in the spring, not in the middle of January, baby.
That's right. It's an indoor sport. Remember that.
All right, so you start getting your guys in place. You're talking to the previous players that were on the roster. You're starting to bring in some guys that you feel like are going to fit your system. As you look around, let's say outside of what's going to happen on the floor, just kind of getting what you need in place around from a facility standpoint, from getting an idea of, hey, what's the chain of command here? What are some of the things that you looked at that you feel like are really strengths of what UWM has that makes you believe that you can have the kind of program that you want to have?
Well, I said this in the press conference, and I had some questions about what did I mean when I evaluated the job. It had no gaps. Like, there were no reasons that you couldn't succeed. We're opening a brand new practice facility in the fall, which is really a game changer. The arena is the old Mecca where the Bucks used to play, and it's been renovated. It's really nice, 9,000 seats, and you can literally look out from the concourse out the window and see the Fiserv across the parking lot. So as far as selling a kid, like, you're here and you want to be over there.
Next step is right next door.
Yeah, it's just a parking lot away, but there's a lot that goes into that, getting across that parking lot. I thought that everything was in place to be good. The league is a great league, lots of tradition, but it's a pretty winnable league. Four different teams have won in the last 4 years. So, I think in today's environment, you can have some success quickly in a league like the Horizon. So there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of reasons that you can succeed, and not many pitfalls.
You look ahead to the summer and what you're going to do with the players in terms of individual workouts and just the things that you want to get in place from a basketball philosophy standpoint, and just getting your system in so that the players understand it, getting to know your staff so that they understand what you're trying to teach and how you want to go about doing what it is that you do out on the floor, both offensively and defensively. What does that look like on the ground this summer? Obviously a huge summer going into your first season. What does that look like?
I think you hit on it, but I would go the other way. I need to coach my coaches first.
Yeah.
I think we all have to speak the same language. We all have to, understand I've got a lot of new guys, really only one guy that has been with me before. So, I think we take it slowly, even with the staff. And then with the players, I want to first concentrate on the summer being a time for their development. And, I know that the team stuff is important and, getting, my philosophies in is important. But more important to me is that they get buy-in, that they feel like we're trying to develop them as players, that we worry about development and pace of our work more than we worry about exactly how you're closing out, and shell drill and, all the stuff that we're going to have to worry about. But I think the summertime, even though the rules have changed and you can do more as a team, it's still a time for guys to develop and get better. And I think that's going to be our focus. So coach the coaches, start to get everybody on the same page. There's nothing worse for new players, new coaches than, this coach is saying it one way, this coach is saying it another way. So that's the organization of the words we use is really important to me. And then, getting those guys to buy in and believe that, hey, you're here to get better and we're here to help with that.
Because of all that, because you're new, because you are trying to get that all established, what we just talked about, do you see yourself being more hands-on in the off season this year, being your first season, than you will moving forward, where now you've gone through a season or two seasons with guys where they've heard your voice all during the school year, all during the season, and now maybe once you have your assistants at the point where they understand fully what it is that you want, where maybe you back off a little bit, where you're not that you're not involved, but where you're maybe not as hands-on in summers to come. Just how do you approach that compared to maybe where you were at Queens, where you've been established for a longer period of time?
Well, at Queens in Division II, we couldn't coach them in the summer. So this is kind of I got out of Division I right at the beginning of when you could work out in the summer. I think my last year was the first season we could do it in the summer. So at Queens, I would be still pretty involved in the spring because I thought it was important that they see me trying to pivot and develop them and do it in the right way. It was all about them in the off season, and then we would have to be creative as far as their development in the summer, and we would keep them over the summers at Queens, but we couldn't just be in there hands on. So I think there's going to be a balance, but this summer for sure, I'm going to be in that gym. I think it's super important. We're going to have a team by June, hopefully. And I can go out and I can worry about chasing the next recruiting class, or I can spend time really working on these guys. And obviously we'll recruit, but I think I got to spend a good bit of time in the gym, helping these guys, letting them, learn to trust me, developing some chemistry with individually and as a team, and see where it goes from here, because those are the most important guys.
As you look ahead, have you had any conversations? We talked about it a little bit about the NIL and the transfer portal. Have you had conversations with other coaches in the profession about, hey, where are we on this as you transition from Division II to Division I, and you start thinking about the impact that NIL and the transfer portal have had so far already on college basketball, but now thinking about how it's going to impact you, your program, how you coach, what you go about it. What have those conversations been like for you?
Yeah, I've spoken to lots of coaches at different levels in Division I, how they're going about it. We had the Horizon League meetings, and it's a topic in the conference meetings with the commissioner. Do we need to be, as a league, proactive? I've had lunches and breakfasts with donors here who are involved with other places, other schools that can give me some insight on what's happening, at other places. And really, I don't think I have a definite plan yet, but I know what the landscape looks like. I don't really love it. I don't think anybody loves it, but we're going to have to figure it out. And I'm not putting any pressure on us now, and I'm not. As we recruit, obviously you can't entice kids with the NIL, but I'm really telling them, like, I would rather tell you you're going to get nothing, and then something roll around and you get it and you're pleasantly surprised. But don't pick Milwaukee for that. It's not where we're going with this.
It's such a challenge to figure out. I can understand the logic behind it, and yet at the same time, I can't even imagine what it does to you as a college basketball coach trying to navigate, okay, now you've got players who, as you mentioned before, some other schools offering me this NIL deal, and I got to try to figure that out and navigate it. And then you have, just from a transfer portal standpoint, guys always are, and it's one thing to another, where if a guy's not super happy, that they can walk out the door so much easier than it was in the past. And again, there's certainly positives to that, where if a coach leaves or they're in a situation where it's not ideal for them, that the kid does have an opportunity to go and play somewhere else and not have to sit out a season. But yet it feels like it's opened up this whole can of worms where everybody thinks that the grass is greener on the other side. And I think that too many kids are probably getting poor advice from whoever it is that's in their ear in terms of, hey, maybe it's worth sticking it out for a year and not being able to, maybe not getting off the bench as much as you want in your freshman year, but hey, come your sophomore year, your junior year, your players are going to develop, and you're going to get an opportunity to be able to play. So when you're having conversations with players, especially let's say your kids who aren't getting as many minutes as they would like, what do you foresee, or what have you done at Queens in terms of talking to those kids at the back end of your bench who that they're eventually going to be able to be contributors, but maybe their time just isn't in the moment? So what are those conversations like?
I think you just have to be truthful always, be really, really honest. And to me, you've got to create a culture, a program where they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So when those doubts come up, or when those other opportunities come up, they go, yeah, but I kind of like being a part of this, it's, and we try to create that environment that we've talked before. I like to call us a cult, we create our cult and some buy-in, and, you're not going to keep everybody happy. You're not going to, some kids are going to try to go, be happy somewhere else. But we didn't really have those issues at Queens. We didn't have guys, jumping in the portal, and we had plenty of good players that could have gone lots of places. And, that's what we'll try to create here. Obviously the landscape's changing. It's going to be more turmoil starting a program than having what I left at Queens, which was established and, had a good thing rolling. This is not rolling at this point. It's not even stumbling and bumbling around. So it's going to take a while, but it's just a daily grind, daily process. How do we get better today?
I know you and I talked the last time about the shared language. You mentioned the cult piece of it, putting together that player dictionary, for lack of a better word, for all the terminology that you have that's important to you. And you mentioned it earlier as well with the coaching staff, and making sure that everybody's using the same language so that the players understand that this coach and that coach, we're all on the same page and everybody's hearing that same message. Have you started to put that in place, get that to your coaching staff, and is it starting to trickle into conversations with the players?
Yeah, no, not yet. We actually, a lot of these guys are, Jake will be onboarded this coming week. Jose will be the following week, and then Coach Shu probably 2 weeks after that. And I did stagger it. They're already through their paperwork, but they're not actually on campus yet. Moving families. Jose was a high school coach, so he's trying to make sure he finishes that right. But I think by not overwhelming everyone with new pieces, everybody in the athletic department, and this was Buzz. I sat down with Buzz Williams at the Final Four. And just picked his brain about how do you go about this, and the best piece of advice he gave me a lot. Was you're new. Everyone's trying to figure you out. And you're trying to figure everyone else out. The players, the administration, all that. Don't bring 3 new assistant coaches right away. And because now it's just all muddled and, everyone's trying to figure everything out. So it's really just been me and the guys that were here, who already knew the players, and they were not in coaching roles. So when I was running practice, I was kind of solo. Those guys were allowed to be on the floor, but they were at that point, I think, afraid to say anything. So I haven't had to worry about that piece yet. And I think it's got to be a gradual process. Now the players are going to leave and they'll be back later in June. So we've got some time here with the staff to really get together and start to learn each other.
What's been the most pleasant surprise about what you found since you got there? Something that maybe you didn't think was going to be there, something that just popped up that you're like, man, this is even better than I thought. I think the support, I knew, I had a feeling that the city would come out if you had a winner, but maybe it's because I did all this media, but it's been amazing to me, the recognition in the city and the desire in the city for UWM to have a winner. There's 200,000 graduates of UWM and 74% live in the state. So everywhere I go, I run into somebody that's, a guy with his son that's a season ticket holder that just comes up and, they're excited and I love Queens, but we didn't have that. We were small private school, didn't have name recognition. Here it's, I think if you win, the top would just come off the building. So that's been, I kind of knew and hoped that it would be that way, but it's been better than I thought. Has the success of the Bucks had an impact? Like, how do you see that in terms of obviously the success of the team with Giannis being the biggest star in the league in the city, good for basketball in the city and gets more people excited about basketball. Does that translate in any way that you see yet at this point? I mean, obviously you haven't been there that long to really know exactly what that does, but I've got to think that having the Bucks next door to you and having that kind of success just feeds the basketball fever, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is look at the Deer District last night.
Yeah.
It's packed. It's packed. And that parking lot that they're standing in is the separator between the two arenas. So, I don't know yet if it translates, but it makes me excited that, there's lots of basketball fans here. And, if we could just put Giannis in a Milwaukee jersey, Panther jersey instead of a Bucks jersey, I'm sure that would help. But
that would definitely help. You just got to find the next one.
How many of those folks standing? Yeah, exactly. How many of those folks standing in that crowd are UWM alums, though? That's the trick. And do they have school spirit? And do they want a winner? And we just have to put a good product out there.
That's clearly the number one priority. You put a winning product out there and you're going to draw people. Any other thoughts or conversations with the athletic administration about how you draw in more fans? What's it going to take to be able to get more people into the arena? Clearly, again, number one is if you win, people are going to show up a lot more than if you're putting a losing product on the floor. But just in terms of when you start planning for next season and you think about how can we generate more interest, any thoughts on how that process is going to go?
Yeah, I think it's a team effort. They've done a tremendous job with the media so far, and just getting some buzz about new time in the program, new era, and then it's daily. They're doing a fantastic job helping me get out and be visible. Today, I've got lunch with I think it's 30 student leaders, students who had been to 5 or more games last year. So you just make yourself visible and vulnerable. Sometimes as coaches, that's the hardest part. And just be out. They all go back to Bruce Pearl and what he did here. Not only did he build a winner, but he was on campus. He was pumping up the students. That's what they remember. And I don't have that. I'm not the marketer that Bruce Pearl is, but I know that if you just make the effort, that people will get behind you.
What are you most excited about moving forward? What's the one thing that you're like, man, I can't wait for this? Is it first day of practice, first game? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited for whatever the date is, June 28th. I think when we can get the team together, the team that's going to be the team next year, and they come back for summer and they're all there, and we have those first meetings, and we start to pump into them a vision of how this is going to happen and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. To me, that's the most special part of this. And it's not even on the court. It's it's the individual sessions. It's the, learning each other. It's talking about, okay, this is how we're going to go about our work, and having their eyes light up and, be excited about what's going to happen.
What's the biggest challenge? Last question. What's the biggest challenge moving forward in order to get the program where you need it to be?
I think for sure building the roster. I think, we all want to say, oh, we're good coaches, but we're only as good as those players. And, getting the right players and the right fits for the system, having guys that you can trust and they're here for the right reasons and are workers and, want to go to class and do all those things. I think that's the most challenging part when you come into a program that maybe hasn't had success.
Art, can't thank you enough for your time this morning. Wish you nothing but success as you go about building that University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee program. I know that you're going to take what you've done over the course of your career and be able to apply that there in Milwaukee. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Hoopheads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.